the paradox of virtue. We've been talking about virtue for centuries, but have we ever really figured it out? It seems like every generation comes up with new ways to define what it means to be good. So, what exactly is virtue, and why should we care? Virtue ethics is a way of thinking about what it means to be a good person. Instead of focusing just on rules like don't lie or always be kind, virtue ethics looks at who you are on the inside. It's all about your character. Virtue is about developing habits that lead you to make good choices, not just once, but all the time. Now, the idea of virtue has been around for a really long time. Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers from ancient Greece, believed that virtues are qualities we need to live a good life. For him, being virtuous meant acting, thinking, and even feeling in ways that help us and the people around us flourish. But what does that actually mean? Think about qualities like courage, loyalty, and wisdom. These are just a few examples of virtues. If you have courage, you face challenges even when they're scary. If you have loyalty, you stick by the people you care about. And wisdom helps you make smart choices, especially when things are complicated. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes being virtuous can have surprising consequences. Have you ever thought about how being too honest could hurt someone's feelings? Or how too much generosity might cause problems? As strange as it sounds, being too good can sometimes lead to the opposite of what we expect. What if chasing virtue too hard actually backfires? We all want to be good people, but is it possible that trying too hard to be virtuous can lead to unexpected problems? There's an old idea in Taoism that says, if you focus too much on being good, you might miss the point entirely. In other words, when you're constantly thinking about how to be virtuous, you can end up doing it for the wrong reasons. Instead of acting out of genuine kindness or compassion, you start doing it because you feel like you have to. It becomes less about being a good person and more about looking like one. Imagine someone who always tries to be perfect. They want to be seen as brave, generous, or honest. At first it sounds great, right? But the problem is, when they focus too much on being virtuous, they start acting out of obligation. They do good things not because they really want to, but because they think they should. Now, this happens on a larger scale too. Think about companies that try to be as ethical as possible. You'd think that the more a company tries to be good, the better it would be for everyone. But sometimes, the pressure to be perfect can cause problems. Research shows that when organizations push too hard to be ethical, it can lead to burnout, stress, or even sneaky behavior. People start cutting corners just to meet impossible standards. So, while it might seem like striving to be virtuous is always a good thing, sometimes it creates pressure that can actually make us act less morally. What happens when virtues collide? Let's say you have to choose between being honest and being compassionate, honesty or kindness. Which one wins? Life is full of tough choices, and sometimes even our virtues can be in conflict. For example, imagine a situation where telling the truth might hurt someone's feelings. Should you be honest or should you be kind? These are called moral dilemmas, and they happen more often than we think. This is where Aristotle's idea of the golden mean comes in handy. Aristotle believed that every virtue exists between two extremes. Take courage, for example. Too little courage and you're a coward. Too much and you become reckless. True courage sits right in the middle. This balance is what he called the golden mean, the sweet spot where a virtue isn't too weak, but not overdone either. So, how do we figure out which virtue to lean on in difficult situations? Aristotle had an answer for that too. He believed that wisdom is the key. Wisdom is like a guide that helps you decide which virtue is the most important in a given situation. If you're facing a conflict between honesty and kindness, wisdom helps you step back and ask, which one will lead to the best outcome? It's not always easy, but it's about finding that balance and making the most thoughtful choice. Wisdom, in a way, is a meta virtue. It helps you know when to be brave, when to be kind, and when to speak the truth. It's the virtue that guides all the other virtues, especially when they seem to be pulling you in different directions. So, in a messy, imperfect world, how do we really live a good life? It's not easy, especially when no one is perfect. But maybe there's more to virtue than just trying to be flawless. The truth is, we live in a world that's far from perfect, and so are we. But here's the good news. You don't have to be perfect to be virtuous. In fact, recognizing our own imperfections is a key part of living a good life. When we accept that we and everyone else make mistakes, we can start focusing on how to grow instead of feeling bad for not getting it right all the time. That's where humility comes in. Humility is about understanding that nobody has all the answers and that we're all a work in progress. When we embrace humility, we stop striving for perfection and start striving for improvement. This mindset shift helps us become more open to learning and becoming better, rather than pretending we've already figured everything out. Now, if we're willing to accept our own flaws, it makes it easier to understand and empathize with others. Empathy is crucial when it comes to living ethically. It's the ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to see things from their point of view. When we cultivate empathy, we stop judging others so harshly and start focusing on helping and supporting them. Living virtuously isn't about being the perfect person. It's about recognizing that we're all on a journey, learning and growing as we go. When we embrace our flaws, it actually helps us grow into better, more compassionate people. By accepting our imperfections, we give ourselves and others the space to learn and improve. How can accepting our flaws lead to deeper moral growth? Living a virtuous life in a flawed world isn't about chasing perfection. It's about striving to be better, showing empathy, and growing along the way. In the end, it's this journey that makes us truly virtuous.